my WITCHMAN comic book Kickstarter is launching on Friday the 13th. So why not talk about Friday the 13th
today?
Yeah, today. One of your favorite movie franchises series, and kind of like just with the like numerous sequels and the kind of like supernatural and like superpowered aspect. It is kind of like a pre-superhero movie.
Definitely.
In a way. He's got his iconic mask, there's Horshack. Right? So specifically talking about Friday the 13th Part 6, but we can talk about all kinds of stuff. But yeah, there's Ron Palillo, Horshack. Love it. It's very welcome. And again, great tone to start a Friday the 13th movie off on, because you're tense, you're waiting for something horrible to happen, and then Horshack's there, and he's kind of smarmy. And you're like, okay, we're in good hands. But then thing are going to get really, really bad.
Tom, you got to take it. This is... But John Travolta was pulling strings. He got his old buddy Horshack, a plum role in the 1986's blockbuster Friday the 13th Part 6. And... so that's Tommy Jarvis and his buddy are going to try to like...
And Tommy Jarvis was like a little kid in the previous one.
Yeah, he was a little kid in Part 4.
And was he Corey Feldman?
He was Corey Feldman in Part 4, and then he was a different actor, I think John Shepard in Part 5. But there was a flashback that Corey Feldman was busy shooting Goonies in Part 5. And he was such a hot commodity. Mm-hmm. They went to his house and filmed a scene in his backyard. Mm-hmm. He was such a big shot.
That reminds me of like Cannonball Run, where like Frank Sinatra is in it, and he doesn't even get out of his limo. He just like rolls down the window, says his line, and then the window rolls back up, and that's like the extent of his performance.
When the weather gets warm again, can we do the Cannonball Run movies?
So it wasn't Corey Feldman like in his bed, kind of like sideways saying his line, and they're shooting like from outside. So they're shooting from outside through his window so that he can just kind of like lie in bed and not have to deal with anything. Like he doesn't even have to open his front door.
He's at the height of his powers. Some poor PA has to come out. They're like, Corey's not getting out of bed. Like he's gonna.
So like the Friday the 13th series. It's this long running series. It's got this like super powered dude who he doesn't save the day or anything, but he's this central focus character, and then and then it gets to the point where you're having like crossover, like Freddy versus Jason. Yes. It's kind of like, okay, this is again before there was a Superman versus Batman movie or whatever. There's Freddy versus Jason. So again, it is like filling that void. Pre-superhero movie renaissance,
Definitely. And this one is really, it's a fan favorite. Great tone in this one. This one's kind of like knowing.
I like the tone. I like the sets. I like the camera work and everything. And again, practical effects.
You're going to get like great pairing this with the Monster Squad. Mm-hmm. They're going to pull a little Frankenstein's monster here. Okay. Jason gets struck by lightning and revived.
Yes.
And I'm like...
They just can't leave this guy alone. Yeah.
Yeah, they should have left him alone, but he lightning, I didn't know lightning revives Jason.
Yeah, and he is like so thoroughly decomposed and stuff. Yeah, pretty nasty. Gross. Yeah, with like the worms crawling on him and stuff.
And he's gonna punch Horshack's heart out of his chest in about 2 seconds here. Like, it's pretty gnarly. But I just want to let you know, I had purchased Tommy Jarvis's jacket.
Okay.
And I
I love that stuff. That's like the Brokeback Mountain jacket.
I own it. I copped his entire fit from this movie. I'll be wearing it during our next episode. Awesome. Yeah. I will be donning the Tommy Jarvis look for our next episode. He's leaving his... But look, he's going to get this steak here.
Yeah, to sort of... like, again... I never saw any Friday the 13th movies. I was just too terrified of them.
They're scary.
To watch them. And like, I'm having a hard time even looking at the screen. But I know the beats of these movies just from hearing kids talk, because it was the talk of the playground or whatever, the schoolyard. And I remember hearing about this of like he sticks a metal stake in Jason's heart to make sure that he's like done forever, and then it gets struck by lightning. That's the thing that revives him. So
great practical effects here.
Yeah,
like but also he's buried with his like machete and mask. Like maybe
bad idea.
Separate him
kind of like a mummy again, having all his accoutrements.
Look at this hammer whore graveyard.
Yeah, and then they're gonna pour some gasoline on him. So yikes! Bad move, guys. Bad.
Look at the special effects.
Great special effects. It looks like there's actual like neon on that stake, bringing him back.
Isn't that cool?
That is very cool. I'm all tense. Worrying about Ron Palillo. Yeah, he opens his eyes. He's got kind of like a swamp thing look, and the worms moving on him. Great move there.
And so there's a controversy here too. Like Jason is played by two guys in this.
Yeah.
The original, like early in the movie, he's
Ron Palillo's freaking out. I mean, that's why you want Horshack in your horror movie, because he is going to be screaming his head. And Jason, he's scary looking. He looks like the mummy. He's covered with webs and stuff. He's quiet. He moves kind of fast.
Isn't that creepy?
Very terrifying. Scary. Very terrifying.
He's going to splash him with some gas. A lot of gas.
Yeah, but then you get now it's like Jason, but he's on fire. Like it doesn't make him less threatening.
Even more. He's going to bear hug you.
Yeah.
But like,
if he would have left well enough alone. So Matt, okay, I know this stuff from the schoolyard.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hearing about Friday the 13th movies my whole life, which is why I never wanted to see them. They just sounded too scary. But like, the rumor when I was a kid was that the next movie after this was that Tommy was going to turn evil and become the new Jason and get a hockey mask that instead of being red, having the red V, has a blue V. And so there's like, did that happen? Like, what was behind it? Did that happen?
Oh my God. That's, we have to watch that one too.
Okay.
It's part 5.
And is it called Tommy Turns Tables? Because that was the rumor, was that there was going to be a sequel called Tommy Turns Tables. And Tommy was going to become the new Jason.
We need to jot that down. That's
okay.
That's pretty awesome. Like,
okay.
well, like in part 5, the end of it, we're gonna spoil this. We'll have to watch it. It's on Look, James Bond alert.
Oh, that's awesome.
That awesome.
Yes, a James Bond. Yes.
And Tom, this movie is awesome. Like, they kind of went with part 6. It's Jason as Universal Monster.
It feels like it right off the bat. Off the bat, and that James Bond opening is like the coolest thing I've seen in a while. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and part 5 is incredible because it's not Jason. It's such a convoluted.
Well, because I think of Halloween and all the convolutions that the long running Halloween series takes.
Jason series does the same thing with like part 5. It's a ambulance driver.
Okay. The music by Harry Manfredini. Like, so they want to have like a Harry Mancini. So they invent this name or something. Harry Manfredini.
Yeah, he did the iconic.
Yeah,
and it changes around throughout the series, but it's like killer mommy. So it's like mama. That's where they got mommy. The syllables from the actor, and they like made the music. They like incorporate that into the music.
Yeah,
he goes to the sheriff and he's telling him Jason's back.
But it's ridiculous because Jason is buried. He's rotted away to nothing. How can he possibly be back?
The sheriff's, that's what he's telling him. And and he, it makes a little more drama because the sheriff is the father of the girl that he likes in town too.
Okay. A little extra wrinkle. Yeah, again, like something, an element that would, find its way into like Stranger Things or something.
Yeah.
Oh, here's this guy with the don't you love that stack of food in the polystyrene container, the beige polystyrene containers. 80s, it's the 80s.
This movie John Travolta's nephew plays Court in this movie.
Okay.
And him and Nick were like the look that I aspire to.
Right.
Because, you know, like 80s synonymous with ripped jeans. Mm-hmm. There's a part where Court's sitting like on this counter and his jeans are so ripped. And the sheriff goes, "Doesn't your mother have a sewing machine?" And Court has a single fucking dangling cross earring in this movie.
So now, you know, Tommy is put in this jail cell that's made out of the same material that brought Jason back to life. So this isn't going to be good. This is
no, like they think he's you know, telling tall tales.
Sure, yeah, because that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of a guy coming back to life from a state. Who's the now? When I was a kid, the other thing that I heard was that Alfred Hitchcock directed the first Friday the 13th.
That's fucking great. These are awesome rumors.
Again, because like this thing's, you know, bigger. This thing's larger than life. This thing is again, and it's kind of therapeutic to be watching this. It was kind of the same last year when I watched Halloween for the first time because I was terrified of it, and then you watch it and it's like awesome. It's scary. It's fun. But it's like, okay, now it's because these things loom so large in my imagination. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just so terrified of them. You know?
There's Tony Goldwyn. He's the bad guy from Ghost.
Okay.
But they see Jason in the road, and they're like, they try to bribe him with some
treats.
They give him his credit cards. He doesn't want those.
Yeah, and there, you know, he's got his
like he still has that stake that they stabbed him with.
And yeah, Chekhov's gun. You know.
And then all these John Travolta's nephew.
Okay. Yeah, he's got a look. He's got like an 80s look. And yeah, the torn up knees. And yeah, he's
got a Walkman on.
He looks a little bit like Ezra Koenig from Vampire Weekend. Yeah. Has like a superb 80s do. Even the sheriff. The sheriff's got a pretty nice coif going.
Oh, very bulbous, like yeah,
and then Tommy is like a throwback. Tommy is like rockabilly 50s, you know, maybe a little James Dean.
Yeah.
You know, you can see that as a reference.
That's the sheriff's daughter there. And he's been locked up pretty much his whole... He's like...
Hey, he's safe in there.
Yeah, I would stay in that jail cell.
What's the best Friday the 13th? So like, yeah, Alfred Hitchcock directed the first one. Who's the auteur of Friday the 13th? Like, how, you know, how's this? Because like my impression of Friday the 13th was just that it's just real trashy, real tasteless, real lowest common denominator garbage, and like that's the key to its popularity. But is there like
so like Steve Miner is the guy that was going to direct Fred Decker's Godzilla 3D,
okay,
King of the Monsters, and he did 2 of the Friday the 13th movies. So he's directed the most of them. He did part 2 and part 3. Sean Cunningham did part 1, and then Joseph Zito did part 4. He also did Invasion USA with Chuck Norris.
Nice.
And so you get kind of like a James Bond thing.
Okay.
Where there's like a different like a director pretty much for each movie.
Each one. So like somehow they find their way back into this camp again. But the establishing shot looked like it was a different kind of film stock. It looked like it was maybe pulled from an earlier movie and then dropped in here.
This one is, in this movie, they renamed Camp Crystal Lake Forest Green.
Rebranded.
They rebranded it.
After some horrifying thing happened there.
They don't want the kids to. There's Court with his knees blowing through his pants.
Yeah. Now you're just rubbing it in. Now you're just like, yeah. Look, if you don't like the fact that I have ripped knees on my jeans, I'm just gonna put basically like my whole leg through that hole in the middle.
But that's
and then when he stands up, then they completely get shredded. So we got John Travolta's nephew, Ron Palillo. You know,
there's the kid. So this is the only Friday the 13th where there's actually kids at camp.
Kids at the camp, yeah, because it's usually like
before like getting ready for it,
right? It's counselors and stuff. It's like completely occupied by counselors. But this ups the stakes, yeah.
Also, like an early movie, probably the first time I ever saw paintball is here in this movie.
Okay, yeah, well, because Gotcha was a couple years before this. Gotcha was like the movie that like put paintball on the map. These are two doofuses who are,
the guy on the left, famously drinks a glass of piss in Problem Child 2.
Okay. He looks it. Oh, there's Jason.
So there's a scene here that'll tell you, once again, the tone of the movie. If you haven't...
He looks very decomposed in this. Like, is he decomposed in all of them, or...
So, in the first one, he's kind of like a little kid. He's, like a zombie-looking thing. And then in the second movie...
Yeah, how does he get beefed up?
He becomes like a beefy, he's a regular guy in that movie. Yeah. Which is really scary. And then, slowly, he becomes, zombified throughout the series. Mm-hmm. He gets really, in the later ones, 7 or 8, he's really disgusting. His ribs are exposed and his,
Yeah, and, going nuts with, the makeup. Because, the creature effects and stuff. The creature effect... technology, just that body of knowledge keeps getting more and more refined, and then it's the end of this type of
That's what, did you see that?
Then it's the end of this type of movie,
How did you get that on the tree, Tom?
That's incredible.
Yeah,
yeah, so this is this kind of like a spoof? Are we there?
I always feel I can't remember. I feel like this is the proto Scream.
Well, that's what, because Scream I always think of as oh, that's where they started making the knowing horror movie where it's everybody in the movie have seen a bunch of horror movies and know all the tropes. But it's Monster Squad had some of that, and then.
The characters in this don't know the tropes, but they're spoof, kind of winking at them for the audience in this one. It should be fun. The Monster Squad doesn't take itself too seriously. It's really goofy. How did that smiley face get on the tree?
I thought that was one of the assumptions in these movies is that the killer kind of does a lot of advance work. Where he gets there early, he carves a smiley face in the tree, and then waits for the exact right moment to have that guy bop his face into it.
They're reassuring the kids that they're safe. Mm-hmm. This always freaked me out.
And just like Halloween, it's in Halloween, you're terrified that something's going to happen to the kids. And then it doesn't. Is that this here? Or,
yeah, the kids are safe, but
But the camp counselors are fair game.
Travolta's he's hey, can you please pull some strings for my nephew?
That's the other thing. I was never I was never allowed to watch these movies as a kid, and I never would have wanted to if I were. But I knew a lot of kids, my cousin and stuff, who had watched all of these movies. So how did your mom and dad did your parents let you watch it? Because this is kind of
I didn't watch these until I was in middle school.
In middle school, okay. Because I also kind of these movies, just from hearing about them, they sounded, just terrifying, but then they also sounded like quasi-pornography, too. So, they were extra taboo, extra verboten.
Yeah, I would go to Far More again and, study the boxes, the VHS boxes. But when I saw them for the first time, I saw them on TNT's Monster Vision. Okay. So they were on... and so marathon
they're
on television.
And so they're toned down.
Toned down a little bit. But then, I finally... Then, right after, we would rent them from, the video store. So, middle school is when I started to watch these on VHS.
You know what else? I guess maybe because it's, 1986 or whatever, the look of this is, a little more slick, a little more professional, a little more like a real movie, where, the earlier ones, the bits I've seen of them are so that late 70s, early 80s film stock that's just terrifying.
It's so terrifying.
This is a little more comfort. The level of craft in this is a little more comforting.
It is comforting. Because the first one was made on a super shoestring budget.
Right. So then you think you might actually be seeing somebody getting killed because it's so low, but it's so under the radar that it was maybe filmed in, yeah.
And Tom Savini did the special effects. Pittsburgh's Tom Savini for the first one.
Nice.
But part 2 and 3 are so good, And they're like, Steve Miner is such a good director. They're very well crafted. I think part 2 might be my favorite of the series.
Okay.
That one's really scary, Tom. It's terrifying.
I imagine so. I mean, because again, I'm getting kind of creeped out and grossed out by some of the stuff in here, but not nearly the way I would have thought. And like my understanding of those first 2 is just like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere near. Like they're so terrifying.
Yeah, the famous tagline for part 2 is "The body count continues."
Yeah, because also Halloween or whatever feels like it's kind of tasteful.
Yeah,
where this is like, yeah, they're not. They're going for the opposite.
Like a grindhouse.
Exactly, they're going for like bad taste.
Like Halloween might be aired on like the Criterion Channel.
Yes, yeah.
Like, somebody cut the power to the RV. There's some good special effects coming up here,
and some great hair.
They're hitting the road. They're at like this RV park.
You don't see enough of this in movies with RVs where you get the sense of the movement of the RV, of like where he's doing the K turn and she's getting like rocked all through it. You don't see that enough in movies with RVs.
And like you really want this guy to drop dead here, because there's a part where he like either cranks the music up or puts on his Walkman and he goes, "What are you doing back there? Taking a shit." And I'm like, I wish someone would fucking kill this guy.
Well, that's another thing you can do in these movies is make a guy who like you absolutely want the murderer to kill because he's so obnoxious, and then just keep denying the audience that bit of catharsis or satisfaction. Yeah.
Jason's hiding in like one of these like doors here. There he is. Watch this gag.
Hey, you taking a shit? Whoa, how about a courtesy flush, dude?
I'm gonna shit my pants.
Yeah, this is. I mean, it feels like
he cranks the tunes up.
Yeah, it feels like De Palma or something. Like
Yes. Oh my God, you're right. Like,
and of course, De Palma like does in Blowout does like the direct slasher movie thing, like in the opening sort of fake out. Oh my God, that is a great
gag.
Yeah. That's crazy.
What are you doing back there? Taking a shit?
Look at this. He's got the Travolta smile. He's got that like yeah.
He's blood, Travolta's blood.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing back there? Taking a shit?
Yeah, he could play Danny in Grease,
Jason's gonna come in for the kill. Look at this. This is gnarly. Watch this. We get some
some special effects, some like Dukes of Hazzard, or some Cannonball Run going here.
Look, Jason just blew the door.
He's fine. He's blowing the doors
off. Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. Again, like if Jason would instead fight crime, I would so be on board. Like I would watch every single one of these. But because he's a homicidal maniac, I'm not as interested as I would be if he were fighting crime.
There's the sheriff. So Jason just took out the RV with
there's an RV.
Well, you don't want to piss off Travolta. They start to believe Tommy.
Right, yeah. It's like the Blob or something. Yeah. They don't believe the kids at first. And
then they're picking the evidence up, and Jason starts prowl around the camp. Forest Green. This one was shot in the South.
Okay.
Where the others are like Northeast.
Yeah, that would explain some of the Cannonball Run kind of vibe to it.
Jason goes after Sheriff Buford T. Justice.
So the peaks are earlier in the series. Like, how is Freddy versus Jason? How's the one where he goes to space?
That one's a fun one. It has a David Cronenberg cameo in that one.
Okay.
It's over the top ridiculous. Definitely want to check that one out. Freddy vs. Jason is like a little too slick.
It's
like 2003 era.
That seemed to me like one where I was kind of tempted. I was like, I might want to check this out because I do like the Wolfman versus Frankenstein.
Oh, we love it.
I do like the kind of team ups, and again, it was before Batman versus Superman, and I was kind of craving. I loved like the crossover. The crossover hadn't quite happened yet. We didn't have the Avengers yet.
Yeah.
So I thought, but I didn't go see it. But that seemed like that would be one. And again, like you said, a little more slick. I felt like it might be a little more toned down, a little less outlaw.
I tell you what, though, it was like the crowd was hot in the theater.
Yeah.
It was like a hot crowd.
Right. Good. Yeah. Good one to see with a crowd.
And yeah, so Jason's like prowling around the
now. Is Jason kind of like a protector of children or whatever? Like, is that does that creep into it? Because it does seem like he kind of like leaves the kids alone and goes after the camp counselors that are the camp counselors like mean to the kids, and then he like
not particularly.
Okay, so it's not like My Bodyguard or something, you know. Again, I'm trying to make sense of this thing that's loomed large in my imagination and in my life without having this is the most I've ever seen of a Friday the 13th movie.
I had to work my way up to see them.
Yeah.
I was researching everything about them. I was pumped up.
Did you encounter did you watch the Halloween movies before this, or was that all kind of?
I watched the Halloween movies after I watched the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, because Friday the 13th, Halloween was a little more obscure. Friday the 13th was the one. That was the thing to check out. That was the brand name, was Friday the 13th.
I watched Halloween, I think, when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. These were middle school. This is also knowing in this because there's they go to Karloff's diner in here.
Right.
So all these cops are looking for him.
Yeah.
And Jason's hiding in the bushes and stuff. And
a perfect place to kind of skulk, you know.
And we talk about different action figures. Jason, for some reason, we can't explain it. He's got shinobi shurikens or throwing darts. He has these darts.
Right.
Never explained. Mm-hmm. Where do you get these darts from?
Yeah. In Halloween, they establish that he hits the hardware store first, you know. So maybe there was going to be a shot where he goes into the army surplus or whatever.
It gets all his weaponry.
Yeah. Those great carpets. Again, it is you set your horror in a familiar setting. So that looks carpet and stuff makes me think of my grandparents' house in the mountains or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Jason's stalking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got
this guy's
Yeah, when you talk about it taking place, the other one's taking place in the Northeast.
Part 3 is in California, so it's a little dusty.
Does Jason put on a pair of shades at some point in it?
He's he only orders a kale salad or something.
Yeah, right.
He's
he's on this big cell phone.
He's ciao, babe. He's got blow all over his mask. He's burning rails through his mask.
This has been fun watching some Friday the 13th with you, Matt. I got my WITCHMAN Kickstarter launching on Friday the 13th. Today, yeah. And again, oh no, he's gonna squash it like a melon. Yikes. And my Kickstarter, it's WITCHMAN, who kind of looks like he would be a slasher or something, but is a superhero. So again, what I'm talking about, how I would prefer the Friday the 13th movies to be, that's kind of what I'm actually making.
It's comforting.
Yeah, so follow the link to support my my Kickstarter, the WITCHMAN, brand new superhero comic book, the premiere debut of WITCHMAN. So
I'll be supporting it.
Thanks, Matt. So yeah, check it out. And
we gotta show you the final kill. Jason folds this guy in half like a pancake.
Okay.
Or he folds him over like a
It's the person gets killed, and it's usually fast or slick, and then the camera kind of lingers on the aftermath. So I was kind of shocked when we didn't see what that guy looked like after.
Yeah, he was just holding his head.
Yeah, but then you do get to see it. You do get to see it as this guy walks by. Sort of witness the horror.
He thinks Jason's down for the count.
Seems like it, This is kind of reminding me of that graveyard wrestling match.
Oh, the Boneyard match.
Yeah.
Wasn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Watch this guy. Ugh. He's hitting the road.
Jason is kind of like the Blob, because it is kind of shooting it with bullets is about as effective. It's kind of like the Blob in human form.
Oh, Tom, the Blob 88 is great. That one's really ghastly. And also, that's her dad. Jason's chasing after.
Yeah, she witnesses the carnage. The final girl.
He was this guy's a whole football field ahead of Jason.
Well, that's the thing. You run away from Jason, and you're he's way behind you, and then all of a sudden he's in front of you.
Yeah. And
I remember a kid in school explaining that to the teacher, because like the teacher was saying something about like, why do you watch this? And the one kid was explaining that no, it's like real deep.
it's awesome.
And there's like mysteries, and you're wondering because it's like, you know, he's behind you and then he's in front of you, and you're like, how did he do that? And I'm picturing like Jason kind of somersaulting through the air and landing in front of you. And like the teacher was kind of ridiculing this. He's like, I highly doubt you're watching this movie and like scratch your head like, oh, how'd he do that? Yeah.
They have like a Friday the 13th video game for the Xbox.
Yeah, I remember you were playing that. Yeah.
And there's a feature in there where Jason teleports.
Okay, yeah, because how else does he do that? You know, like to me, it's kind of like, well, it's a movie. That's how he gets from behind you to in front of you. It's a movie. But
I love that guy in your classes.
But
like,
yeah, he's talking about it. So I'm imagining him go and like land in front of you.
Oh, great finale. So Tommy's plan is he's gonna put this boulder in a boat.
Yeah.
Go out in the lake. Jason's gonna go out to him, and he's gonna wrap a chain around him and sink him with this rock.
Yeah.
And also for dramatic effect, he pours gasoline on the water and lights it on fire.
Yeah, and then Jason could just kind of stay there forever, you know.
Yeah. Oh no! Somebody severed a head.
Out. Yeah. I could imagine him being chained down at the bottom of that thing like forever, indefinitely, like just kind of forever. And it's just kind of like, don't go near that lake ever. Jason is chained in there. He's this like immortal, you know, monster or whatever. This is ridiculous. Yeah, he folds him like a folding chair. And then the thing of setting water on fire, like I was always fascinated.
Me too.
With that as a kid. That was in like a Planet of the Apes episode. They had to like swim under, and I was like, oh, what would I do if I were in that situation?
Tom, like in like part 7 and 8, people keep coming back to Crystal Lake and bring a mask and a machete with them. Like, why would you ever bring like
Jason's
weaponry?
Yeah, kind of helping giving him a little coax in him.
Long. So there's Tommy getting ready. Jason's coming, and he's like, he goes out in the lake. He's gonna draw him out. You know, Jason's on the prow here. I hope he doesn't. I can't remember if he hurts her. Oh yeah, he saves the day.
Okay, yeah, he gets distracted.
He's like, come on. I think he calls Jason a pussy.
Okay,
point.
Yeah, that did it.
He just walks into the lake.
Like Jesus.
He's like, look at that.
Yeah, he's walking on water. He's a Christ figure.
So
like I'm ready to like deconstruct. Yeah, another reason to be like scared to go in the water.
I'm freaked out. We come on, don't do it.
Come on, Benny.
He's like, look me in the eye while you damn it. He's like, don't deny yourself the pleasure. So Jason goes underwater.
Right.
And
like Jaws, you know.
Like Jaws.
It ends on a boat. You know, smile, you son of a bitch.
Now he's pouring the gas. It's going to be sick. Tommy's going to light this on fire here.
So does Tommy turn evil in like a future installment? Or
So Corey Feldman's Tommy at the end of part 4 looked up at the spiked the camera like, oh, he's gone bad.
Okay.
Then at the end of part 5, he puts on the mask. And you think he's becoming Jason.
Okay.
But
so they keep stringing you along.
And it never comes to pass.
Okay, got it.
Like at the end, he's Tommy again, but doesn't. Pretty cool scene, isn't this neat here?
Well, because also like, and it's happened with the Halloween series where like the fan base really doesn't like it when you pull that when you try to substitute some new guy. Like just keep bringing back. You've already shown that you can bring back this guy's as a corpse can come back. So like, just keep bringing him back. Nobody wants Tommy to be in like a blue hockey mask with a blue V instead of a red.
And this is part 3 of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy that's within the series here.
Yeah. So is this the last we see of Tommy?
The last we see of Tommy.
And, okay, so Corey Feldman never reprises the role. He never comes back in like a later installment when his star has fallen.
No, but another movie I was suggesting for Halloween content is Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood. Corey Feldman is one of the stars of that movie.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Star Warriors, The Adventures of Adam Star and the Solar Legion. And as I mentioned before, the WITCHMAN Kickstarter is live. It's launching, and please support it. It's launching today, Friday the 13th, which we're celebrating by. This is a very rare, special moment me watching a Friday the 13th movie, because I've been like terrified of these movies my entire life, never wanted anything to do with any of them. But
I'm glad I got to watch one with you.
Yeah, and
Part 6.
For the sake of my Kickstarter, I and wanting to make it a success, I'm willing to watch a Friday the 13th movie.
Jason Lives.
Yeah.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And please follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli, on Instagram at Tom_Scioli, and support my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Tom Scioli.
Follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show.
And yeah, we'll see you next Friday the 13th. Matt turns tables. Friday the 13th, part 20. Matt turns tables.
Rip Horseshack. Who would have thought he would fall victim to Jason?
I mean, you know, I haven't seen any of the like scary movie franchise, any of those, but it's like I know they had Principal Squigmont instead of like, you know, Principal Fonzarelli in Scream. I wonder, like, is there a scary movie sequel where like it's all of the sweat hogs getting chased by Jason, you know?